What is going on? Welcome into the New York Jets 2020 7-round mock draft. Okay, I cannot be more excited to share this thing with you guys. But to be honest with you, I'm even more excited to see what you guys have to say down below in the comment section. Not even, so focused about the mock, but more so focused on different prospects that you guys actually want the Jets to be targeting, whether we're talking about round 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Who are some draft sleepers, right? Who are some guys that you feel as though the Jets should be targeting tomorrow, right? Because as we all know, the draft's tomorrow and it's here. And this is a pivotal draft. This is a crucial draft that the Jets gotta nail. You look at Joe Douglas. This is his first draft with the Jets. It's pivotal. Gase is going into year 2. Sam Darnold's second year in the Gase system, and it's Darnold's third year as a pro, right? As a New York Jet. This is pivotal. We got to knock this draft out of the park. Let's not waste any time. Let's hop right in. With the first round pick number 11 overall, I have the Jets going wide receiver out of Alabama, Jerry Jeudy. Now, I had the Jets in my mock draft going with CeeDee Lamb, receiver from Oklahoma. And it's not so much like, oh, I'm on, I'm Team Jeudy now. It's more so I'm actually with the wide receiver camp as opposed to the O-line camp as of right now, where we sit at spot number 11. I feel as though entering the offseason, the Jets had the two major holes on the roster: O-line, receiver. Interestingly enough, both on the offense. That's why we were horrible on the offense, our offensive side of the football last year under Adam Gase. A lot of things played a part in that, but those two were obviously the biggest. But I look at what Joe Douglas did in free agency, and we actually did a solid job on the O-line, bringing in guys like Van Roten, Connor McGovern, bringing back Alex Lewis, signing George Fant. We modified, we reloaded, we shifted this O-line in a favorable position for Darnold for this offense. So it's not a finished product. And if we go O-line here, like an Andrew Thomas or a Mekhi Becton, what have you, it would be a great addition, right? It would be an instant upgrade. But I feel as though right now, when I look at the moves that were made in free agency at the wide receiver position, Josh Doctson, Brashad Perryman, and yeah, we signed him to a really good deal, but is he really going to be the number one guy? I don't know. We only signed him to a 1-year deal, and then we let Robbie Anderson go too. I'm looking at the wide receiving room, and I'm sitting here scratching my head like, we got Crowder, beast, but everybody else is kind of like a roll of the dice. Like, we don't really know what's going on. Whether it's Jeudy, whether it's Lamb, whether it's Ruggs. I mean, we don't even know if Ruggs could be the number one guy for Adam Gase, but this is kind of my thought process here. At spot number 11, I would much rather go with the first choice of the wide receivers, like get the best wide receiver in the draft at spot number 11 who fits the system, who fits with Sam Darnold, who fits the offense, everything, as opposed to getting the third or the fourth or the fifth best offensive lineman at spot number 11. That's my mindset. I know there are going to be some people that disagree. There's going to be some people that agree with me. But I feel like at the end of the day, the Jets need wide receivers, a true number one on the outside who strikes fear in the mind of opposing defensive coordinators. Nobody on the Jets, in the Jets wide receiving room, is doing that currently. We finally would have a guy, again, whether it's Jeudy, whether it's Lamb, who can separate, who can create, who can actually, electrify this offense. Based off of talent, speed, strength, and fundamentals. We're not so much scheming wide receivers open and have to do all that stuff. We can put our guy on an island outside and let him create, right? Let him get open just because he's a beast. Jeudy, Lamb, Ruggs, whoever it is, even though I feel like Jeudy and Lamb are a little bit higher than Ruggs, they're kind of, they're different wide receivers, right? They're just different skill sets overall. I feel as though that's the position that we need to be targeting. So in this mock draft, I have the Jets going Jeudy out of Alabama. Moving on, round 2. Pick 48 overall. I have the Jets going Isaiah Wilson, tackle from Georgia. Okay, now just listen to these numbers. 6'6", 350 pounds at tackle. That is humongous. Imagine that. A 6'6", 350 human athlete blocking for you. Isaiah Wilson, when you think of the UGA program under Kirby Smart, it's getting high recruited guys into the program and then developing them to become NFL players. Georgia is loaded with 4- and 5-star guys. much like USC, much like UCLA, much like Florida State, much like Michigan. But here's kind of where those programs differ from Georgia. Georgia really does a nice job developing their talent. I look at Isaiah Wilson as a guy who did pretty well, right? This was a freshman All-American here, really, really good for the Georgia O-line. Fromm counted on him. And, of course, Andrew Thomas was on the O-line as well. Another, pretty much going to be a first-round pick lock as well. I look at Isaiah Wilson as a guy with a huge upside, a guy who we could play in at right tackle right now because me personally, I'm confident in George Fant that he can play the left tackle position. There's a lot of people that are really, really high on him across the league, and they're saying that the Jets got a steal, right? I'm talking about like high executive guys with teams. A lot of people are saying that the Jets stole Fant for the money that we signed him, and he's going to be the starting left tackle. So I have no problem using our second round pick and addressing a major need with the tackle position, or even letting Wilson come in and compete with Chuma Edoga, right? A rookie from last year out of USC who actually got some playing time, with the 2019 Jets. Didn't really do too great, but he definitely flashed. So I would love Isaiah Wilson here. I'm not so sure he's going to fall to 48, but there's a really good chance he could be on the board too. So Wilson out of Georgia to the Jets. Now, moving to the third round, this is an interesting round because this is where the Jets have 2 picks within the round. We have ours, which is 79 overall, and then we have the New York Giants in exchange for Leonard Williams, the trade that we made earlier in the year, which is pick 68, right? So that's a really, really high pick in the third round. So let's start with that 68th pick. I have the Jets going wide receiver out of Notre Dame, Chase Claypool, one of my favorite guys in the draft. And I know when you're starting to look at third round wide receivers, amongst the Jets fans here, it's kind of a clash. It's kind of a tug of war between Claypool out of ND or Michael Pittman Jr. out of USC. And I know the whole USC connection and USC and Notre Dame are rivals and whatnot. And it's definitely a fun argument. And I don't feel like the Jets could go wrong with either. But I feel like when it's all said and done, Chase Claypool, 6'4", over 200 pounds. Big red zone threat, a competitive dude that is produced for Notre Dame. I look at a guy who you can even line him up in tight end packages. I'm not calling him a tight end, but I'm saying like you can kind of call plays where he's, pretty much as a tight end. A lot of the same stuff that we saw with the Quincy Enunwa. Not similar, they're not like the same player, but I finally look at a guy who we can add to this Jets team in the third round. We're not paying this guy a ton of money. We're not investing a top 5 pick in a guy like this. I'm not saying he's Mike Evans or Julio Jones, but what I am saying is we would finally have a wide receiver who we can throw a back shoulder fade to in the end zone. We can throw those goal line fades and have faith, have confidence in our quarterback, in our wide receiver to come down with, to make the throw and come down with a catch for a TD. It probably 2015 with Brandon Marshall and Eric Decker, those were the last time we had actual red zone threats. I'm not really talking about like an ASJ. He did pretty well in the red zone, but he wasn't an actual threat. I feel like that was kind of a coincidence and he made some plays. But I feel like that's Claypool's biggest strength, right? Boxing out wide receivers, using his height, using his strength, and just his overall physical makeup to box out and leap over defenders and come down with footballs. Competitive individual, too. I think this guy's going to be a really, really, really nice player. Reminds me a ton of Alan Lazard from Green Bay, former Iowa State Cyclone that everybody overlooked. Goes undrafted, Green Bay gets him, and he's a starter on the offense. So I look at the Jets, Claypool standing at 6'4", love the pick. So moving on, third round, still pick 79. I have the Jets going guard out of Clemson, John Simpson, former captain of the Clemson Tigers. Okay, Simpson, 6'4", 320 pounds, really good fundamentals, solid run blocker, can get better in the pass pro game. But again, honing back on this offensive line, it's not a complete product. Did it get better? Yes. Did we add a guy in round 2 that could possibly make the O-line a lot better? Yes, Isaiah Wilson. But I still feel as though the Jets, we have McGovern, I love it. We have Van Roten, I love it. We brought back Alex Lewis, okay. But we're not great yet. Okay, we just aren't. So let's go get a guy that is coming from a blue blood program in Clemson, who has starter potential, who is a great leader at the Clemson, with the Clemson program under Dabo Swinney. I mean, it's so tough to start under Dabo Swinney. That's a tough thing to do. Okay. I think he was also a perfect system fit when you look at him, as far, because Clemson, they run, a lot of college teams do it, but Clemson specifically runs a lot of screens and whatnot, like get the ball out of the QB's hands quickly. He's a really good blocker when it comes to the second level, and I feel like with the Gase system, whether it's a Judy or a Lamb, a Jamison Crowder, what have you, flipping it out to Le'Veon Bell in the flats with Simmons, or with Simpson. Sorry, I'm thinking about Isaiah Simmons. With Simpson being able to get out into the second level and really make a push up there, because he is an athletic style of guard. I think that would be a really beneficial type of player to have on this team, especially when you're looking at the third round. And it was, we have two, so I don't want to say one of them they're expendable, but the Jets do have the leash to kind of swing for the fence, right? We could swing for the fence here. We could take a player with a really high upside. So, Simpson from Clemson, second, third round pick. Moving on, round 4, pick 120 overall, Troy Pride Jr., cornerback from Notre Dame. Now, this is where, a lot of people might say this. Why would you pick Pride Jr.? Like, he didn't really do that much for Notre Dame, but when I look at him as a prospect, right, just as a pure cornerback prospect, he has all the skill, he has all the athleticism in the world to be a successful cornerback at the next level. I really feel as though Greg Williams, he just needs the defensive coordinator to bring it out of him. He needs, I don't want to say the encouragement or that coaching style to become a better player, but in a sense, I do feel like Greg Williams would demand a lot, and he would look at his athletic frame and say, you know what, I can do a lot with this guy. If I just get him under my wing, if I get him in this defensive system, if I could give him some responsibilities and really just push him, I feel like that's kind of what Pride needs, because he was definitely inconsistent at Notre Dame. That's why he's a 4th round pick. I remember last season, there was a lot of talk about him going earlier, but, very inconsistent player, but he's still an extremely athletic player that can do a lot of different things. I like Pride a lot. I really do. One of my favorite players in the draft. Not saying he's one of the best, obviously, but, it is what it is. Moving on, round 5. Oh, and by the way, the Jets desperately need cornerback help. I know we talked about tackle, wide receiver, pretty much all the offense, but cornerback is desolate, right? We don't have many cornerbacks. We have Pierre Desir, great. We have Bless Austin, great. We brought back Arthur Maulet, fantastic. But Trumaine Johnson, not there. Darryl Roberts, not there. They played, a pretty good chunk for this Jets team, and we did not do well last year with the cornerbacks. I don't want to say secondary, but with the cornerbacks, we need to get better. We need to get some young players. We need to get guys that Greg Williams wants and needs to run his system. So Pride Jr., I feel like in round 4, you're giving a guy with, round 1, round 2 athleticism, but just falls because of inconsistencies and the inability to put it all together. Next up, round 5, pick 158 overall. It's Jonathan Garvin, edge rusher from the Miami Hurricanes. Okay, now Garvin, 6'4", 265 pounds. Again, I feel as though his number one criticism, my buddy Zach, big Miami Hurricanes fan. If you guys don't know, I'm from Florida. Big Miami Hurricanes fan. And he calls Garvin lazy, right? He was always saying, like, dude, because he's like a lazy player. Like, he flashes and he's quick around the edge, and he can play 4-3, 3-4, whatever. He's a versatile player, but he's like lazy, kind of. I don't want to say he's like, he's kind of like a Jadeveon Clowney. That's what Zach always said to me. I didn't really watch a ton of Garvin at the U, but that was the like when I would talk about, when me and him would have discussions about the Canes defense and whatnot, because Manny Diaz is a defensive-minded head coach. We'd always talk about like the edge rushers and the secondary members and whatnot, and because just from because he likes college more than I do, and I obviously more pro guy, so I'd always talk to him about different guys, like different guys that the Jets could be targeting and whatnot. And when I was looking at the roster of the Hurricanes, I saw this guy coming out from from the edge rusher position. I asked him about him. He's like, dude, he's lazy, he's versatile, and he's quick. He's definitely has potential, but he really needs to be coached hard. And then I was thinking, again, like Pride Jr., we got Greg Williams. Greg Williams is known for being a hard ass, right? This is a dude who, screams and yells and really just is a dictator pretty much. I mean, this guy just is a total enforcer. Everybody loved, Greg Williams. I know the players kind of like roll their eyes and whatnot. And I know it could probably get tiring, but I feel like, he did a ton. He did a ton with the Jets defense last year with not a lot of talent. Pierre Desir said it best himself. When he got released by the Colts, the number one reason why he wanted to come to the Jets, it wasn't because of the money. It wasn't because of the the chance to go to the Super Bowl. It was because Greg Williams was the DC. That was the reason. That was the reason why Desir chose the Jets immediately, and that speaks volumes to me. So again, versatile guy, 3-4, 4-3. I like the potential. Maybe he just needs to find the right coach. So next up, and I know this is a long video here, but we're moving into round 6, right? So round 6, we got pick 191, Levante Taylor, cornerback from FSU. Again, being from Florida, I've watched a lot of Seminoles football over the my lifetime. Really, in these past couple seasons, but really like 5, 6, 7 seasons. But Levante Taylor, at one point, was one of the most highly I don't want to say decorated, but he was a hot commodity coming out of high school. 5-star cornerback. Everybody wanted him. Everybody wanted Levante Taylor. And he shows up at Florida State and extremely athletic, right? Really, really total athlete. Made some plays here and there, but it just never really clicked, right? It was always kind of just like, all right, let's just take a really good athlete and let's just put him at corner. Doesn't really have the best technique, but he's an extremely athletic player who they actually moved him to free safety, believe it or not. And he battled injuries and whatnot as well. But this is a guy, maybe he could play free safety, right? But again, a dude who comes in as an extremely raw and athletic prospect that Greg Williams can get his hands on later in the draft. So earlier in the draft, it was kind of more offensive focus with guys like Judy and Claypool and Wilson and Simpson. And now the back half of the draft is more so focused on defense, right? This is where I really like drafting cornerbacks in these late rounds because you could find gems all across the draft every year. And then finally, round 6, pick 211. Kind of went back and forth on this one, but finally ended up just deciding to go with Brian Cole, safety out of Mississippi State, a dude who was actually recruited to go to Michigan as wide receiver and ended up transferring out because it just wasn't working. Goes to a community school, East Mississippi, right? Everybody knows the Netflix show. Stays in state, goes to Mississippi State, and plays pretty well, right, for the Bulldogs. Everybody knows the Bulldogs in the SEC have a really solid defense, really coached hard. Mississippi State, they have a really nice culture for the defense over there, and we've seen a lot of really good players come out of the Bulldogs, defense as a whole. We have Dantzler, the corner this year. We've had Jonathan Abram last year. We had Montez Sweat. I know there's one more. There's a D tackle. I forget. His name's not coming to me right now, but the Titans picked him last year in the first round. Is it Jeffrey Simmons? I don't know. Point is, Brian Cole, I mean, with the in the 6th round, you're getting a guy who, with all the Jamal Adams trade talk and whatnot, you're getting a guy who, again, really, really athletic. He's kind of the safety linebacker hybrid that you want to see, a versatile guy built for today's league that hasn't played a lot of defensive football, right? So he's still coming into his own as a defender, right? Because he was a wide receiver for the longest time at 6'2", 215, good size for a DB. I really like that, right? I look at a guy who's big, tall, strong, who hasn't really played a lot of defense, but was a starter and a solid player for the Mississippi State Bulldogs. A well-known program, especially on the defensive side of the football. So there you have it. There's the Jets 7-round mock draft. Let me know what you think. And again, who do you want the Jets to target, more importantly? Because we've seen this time and time again. I've had this channel up for a couple years now, and you guys continue to call great players year after year in the comment section. Guys that I'm not saying that the Jets draft, I mean, It's pretty like pass on all these guys every year, and you guys have called it. You guys have wrote names in the comment section. I look at them, and draft happens, season happens, and when the season's over, they're I'm not saying they're top 5 players in the league or they're Aaron Rodgers, but they're well known, respected players by their teams and their fans, and you guys called that. So please let me know your thoughts down below in the comments section. And as always, thanks so much for watching, and go Jets.